In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off in Module 1 and we're going to learn a bunch of HTML formatting. To get started, let's make sure we've got our site files and we have our site management set up. So if you missed Module 1 or you didn't do your own files, you can go to PPCC Online, D2L, and at the bottom you can download Philo website, zip it and unzip it in order to get the project folder files, and it should be looking like this when you open that up, and it will download as a zip file, and you can right click to uncompress the zip file. Next, in Dreamweaver, you'll want to make sure that your site management is set up, and if you don't have Philo here, or whatever you called it, as your class exercise, you'll want to switch it and make sure that you choose Philo. If you don't have it set up, make sure you go to Site, Manage Sites, and set it up. We're going to come back to the About page and continue editing the index.html page in the About folder. So within the Files window in Dreamweaver, I am going to just simply double click on index.html to open it up, and there it is. Now we've actually done some HTML formatting already, and formatting is different than styling. Formatting, there are known HTML formats, and we've used some of them already. For example, we have an unordered list with list items. So when we view that in a web browser, let's just go take a look at it. The web browser software has default formatting styles. We could change how this appears, but for now this is what the default does. So there's an indentation and you have round dots in front of each of your list items, and there's even some margin in between the dots and where the list item starts. Some other formatting that we've already done is we've introduced some heading tags. We had about Philo, we have main character, about the world in which Philo lives, and tip jar. And we had another unordered list down here. The other formatting that we've done is we've added paragraphs. So the rule of proximity says break things up in content so that it's easier to read. Just as a rule of thumb, I try not to let paragraphs get too long. It gets hard on the eyes. Your English teacher might have told you only start a new paragraph when there's a new idea. But in the web world, I would say that if your paragraphs are going too long, somewhere at 5 or 6 sentences max, I would put another paragraph return just for the ease of reading. All right, so let's go look at the very first one that we can add as a formatting element. And the first one I'm going to add is called emphasis. So emphasis is a way for us to use semantic markup to really put a stress on some words. So if I really wanted the search engines and the reader to have an emphasis on webcomic in this first paragraph, I'll open a tag called EM for emphasis, and you'll see that it already put my close tag in it, but that's not where I want the close tag. And I will put the close tag after the phrase webcomic. Simple as that. Now by default, I'll go ahead and save that. By default, you'll see right here, webcomic right now isn't. By default, the styling is going to show this in italics. So when I refresh the page, you'll notice now webcomic is italicized. Another thing I can do that's similar to emphasis is I can make something strong, which is similar to bolding, but it's slightly different. So I'll just pick some words. I'll choose present dolor, and we'll just use strong. Again, I don't want it closing there. I'll put it after the phrase, and I'll paste it. And I misspelled strong, so make sure you spell strong correctly. There we go. and we'll save that. And somewhere around here, you'll see that the default for strong is to bold. Emphasis and strong are pretty similar as far as the purpose for why you would do it. I think if you go to w3schools.com, you know, it tells the web browsers this is important text. So that's essentially, which is a little bit different than emphasis and strong. Could I put a strong around webcomic as well? I certainly could. So let's go ahead and do that. And if I want to do that, I have to make sure I nest it. Now it doesn't matter which one's nested in the other, but if I put strong right here before the M, I'll want to make sure strong is after the M. So the M tags right here are nested inside the strong tags. You can't cross those. You'll get an error, and you'll notice that almost as soon as I write it, actually Dreamweaver is not even showing it as an error, but this will break your code, and it will, maybe the web browsers will figure it out, but we never want to cross any of the nesting. So always make sure that your nesting is in the right order. You can never cross it. So in this case, I've got webcomic both as emphasis and important. And I hit reply. And now you can see that it's bold and italics. If I want something to just be italics, I can do that without saying that it's emphasis. So this paragraph here is kind of long. I'm going to break this up like so. And we'll start a new one here. And maybe I want sort of like a quote. All right, so I would have here, Philo said, quotations, and a quotation here. And then all of everything in between the quotes, or actually outside the quotes, I can do an I. I is for italics. And as I hit save, you'll see that this entire section is now in italics. And that might make more sense because can everything in that be important? Can everything be emphasized? No, but we want to take advantage of the formatting for italics. If I want something to just be bold, but it doesn't necessarily have to be important, instead of strong, I can use B. Sometimes that autocomplete can be a little annoying, like so. And I'm not really sure why that got moved over. There we go. So a B is a way to just add bold. Let's take a look at what that looks like. There we go. And maybe instead of that, I keep going back to that, instead of that comma, I could have had a colon there, perhaps. Another thing that we can use with formatting is small. So I can't remember exactly how much smaller it makes it, but if you just want to make a small amount of text smaller, then we can just put something such as, we'll do this copyright information. We'll put in small. And we'll save that. We go to the bottom of the page. Here's what's going to change. So we refresh that, and you can see that that's now smaller. So anything that's more of like subordinated text, you can apply that real quick, easy formatting for small. Another thing we might do, let's add another paragraph return somewhere in here. and then I'll add another one. The story of Philo parallels Homer's The Odyssey. Now in this case, if you're referencing another citation, we can actually give Odyssey a cite. And that's the semantic markup for that. Now why that keeps indenting for me, I don't know. So different than italics, we're telling the semantic markup, we're citing another document, another book, another magazine, a newspaper, any kind of periodical, we could call that out. Again, by default, it's going to italicize, which is common. You see that a lot when you reference other books. The titles of those books get put in italics. So you could you could just put italics, but to be more specific on why you're italicizing it, we write the semantic markup to include cite. If I want to have a quote, there's a thing that has default formatting for a block quote. So let's go and put in, I'm just going to write here first, what fun is it if you're not having fun? For this, we're going to use a block quote. So I open it up. One of these days I might just turn off this autocomplete so I don't have to keep. You can do that in your preferences if you're getting annoyed by the autocomplete. So this finishes off a block quote. Now by default, it indents, but it didn't italicize. We could go back and change styling later for block quotes. It could be a different font, you could have a different color, different size, but for now the default simply indents the block quote. One other thing that we can do is have a single line return. So be right after this, what fun is it if we're not having fun? I am going to enter a single line return, and that is done with BR. So I guess it means a break. What fun is it if you're not having fun? So that's a break. And then I can have if I hold option and the minus sign, I get a n dash, and we'll just put Philo. Now if I want to show this italicized right now, I could go back and put the italics marks in here. So I have within the block quote, I have italicized, and this is all nested, and then I have a single line break with a single line of text after it. Let's go see what that looks like. There we go. So that would be a way to get a single line so you don't always get a double space return between your paragraphs. There's one other thing we can do that allows us to do markup. I'm not sure we use this a whole lot because it can look kind of nasty, but we'll go ahead and show you how to do it in case you ever wanted to. We could take a part of a sentence. Maybe there's a reason we want to highlight something, like make it look like you took a yellow highlight marker. So we just type in mark, And again, these are just known elements that we use in the web world. And we hit save. And then you see that it gives it a highlight. It's kind of nasty color in my opinion, but if there was ever a reason to do markup, you at least know how to do it. And you could always change the color of that markup if you wanted to with styling. We would do that later in our cascading style sheets. Let's see, there's another one that we can do. If we want to have something that is a definition. So let's see here. So it's an if I wanted to, if Vasis, well, let's take a different word down here. Maybe this Duis Blendit was a definition. And I wanted it italicized, I can put DFN. And it's another way to call out some words when it is a definition. So such and such is defined as Duis Blendit. I don't know. And really all that's going to do by default is make it italicized, wherever that even went. Let's see, I did it right before the world of Philo. It did it right here. So that also puts it in italicized. And if I wanted something, well, that's probably it right now for the markups that I want to cover for this particular module. You can have at those. Oh, there is one more thing I wanted to show. I knew there was. There's another thing that we can do with the horizontal rule. So maybe I wanted to make this this block quote have a little bit more proximity, and what I can do is put in horizontal rules, and those are just simply done with an HR. And then the horizontal rule is always going to go 100% width. And there's ways to stylize horizontal rules. You can add padding, change the color, maybe it's a dashed line or a dotted line instead of a solid line. All of that can be changed later in the style sheets. So that would be an example of a horizontal rule. And that's it for the formatting for now. In the next video, we're going to do a little bit more with a logo in the heading area, and a little bit of styling to be able to have text wrap. So we'll show you what's called an inline style.